the Lord's Sermons, a sermon received through G. Mayer Hofer, 19th Sunday after Trinity. Sermon number 45, the parable of the marriage feast. You have before you the parable of the marriage feast. Through it, I spoke to the Pharisees to reveal their hypocrisy and warn them of the consequences of their blindness. They believed their secrets were hidden, but nothing is hidden from me. Yet I did not wish to destroy them outright, for even they were not beyond redemption. So I wrapped my truth in parables, that those with open hearts might see, and those who hardened themselves might still have time to awaken. In the parable I said, "The kingdom of heaven is like a king who prepared a wedding feast for his son. When the invitations were sent, those invited refused to come. Some made excuses, some ignored the call, and others even attacked the messengers. The king, grieved and angered, destroyed their cities, and sent his servants again to invite all whom they could find, both the good and the bad. And among the guests came one who was not dressed for the feast. When he had no excuse, he was cast into outer darkness." And I ended with these words, "Many are called, but few are chosen." To understand this parable in the spiritual sense, we need to examine it and discover its meaning and application to the present and the future. Now listen carefully, for this parable speaks of far more than a banquet on earth. You will see how everything has its deep spiritual meaning, or spiritually illuminated before the inner eye of the mind. The King is the Father in heaven. The Son is the divine Spirit through whom all creation is to be united. The wedding is the unification of two to one spiritual being, even if separated in two bodies, and represents the great union between the material and the spiritual. The time when matter shall be dissolved, and the imprisoned spirit shall rise to join the higher realms of light. The first invitation went out in the earliest times of humankind, from the creation of man until the great flood. The earth, clothed in its wedding garment, invited all souls to spiritual unification. But mankind turned away from the Spirit and sought pleasure in the material world. They ignored my call and preferred to go the opposite direction. So, to preserve the purpose of creation, I allowed the flood to cleanse the earth, not out of wrath, but out of mercy, that the seed of the Spirit might begin anew. Then came the second invitation to those who lived after that great cleansing. Alarmed by the previous judgment, and driven by an inner feeling, they wanted their spirit to unify with the higher regions of the spirit world. These souls felt within them a longing for something higher. Some responded with sincerity, others only outwardly pretended. So the good felt an inner compulsion towards spiritual growth and carried some spark of desire for truth. That is, they were full of happy anticipation, which means, figuratively speaking, they were dressed for the occasion. Also, the less good and the bad adorned themselves with piousness and wished to appear better than they were. But among them was one who came without a wedding garment. This one did not bother to pretend that this one who boldly defied me is none other than Lucifer. The spirit I expelled long ago. This evil spirit was cast into outer darkness, where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. In other words, where he may wait in the darkness of his own mind until a faint desire for light may one day stir again within him. This spirit of opposition still lives among men. Those who know my will, yet choose evil knowingly, who despise the good and lead others astray. These are of a hellish nature, for they have turned the power of love into hatred. The good and bad at the wedding feast comprise all those who sin because they are too weak, but, although they fall victim to their own weaknesses, they have never lost the desire for betterment. The most evil and incorrigible spirits and souls, also the most backward in all creation, are those who do know what is good, but do not do it because they hate it. When I spoke this parable, the Pharisees knew that I was speaking of them. They sensed their exclusion from the kingdom of light, and anger filled their hearts. But my words were not meant for them alone. They are meant for all generations. For the invitation continues. This parable ends with the words, "Many are called, but few are chosen." This means to say that the doors to my great realm of spirits were and are open to all the spirits of my creation. But only few will succeed in entering the spheres of everlasting peace, tranquility, and beatitude. This will not be possible until they have expelled from their heart all that which is of the world and the senses. Only then can they be chosen to participate in my kingdom, and their spiritual eyes will only be able to bear the brilliance of my heaven of love and light when a similar celestial ray shines from them, which can and must find complete satisfaction solely in the reflection of the great spirit heaven of light. This is the spiritual interpretation of this parable, which has retained its significance until this day. Even now I send my servants throughout the world to call every soul to the feast. Century after century rolls down into the abyss of the past. I have called, yet many still refuse. Some come, but only to demand that my kingdom adapt to their will. They wish to be chosen without being transformed. But my kingdom cannot be entered through pride or outward show. Only those clothed in the garment of love and humility can dwell in the light. For to live in the radiance of heaven, one must already carry light within the heart. As once the flood of water cleansed the earth, so now a flood of spiritual truth shall cover it. This time the waters will be light, the light of my word, my love, and my truth. It will expose all that has been hidden in darkness. Many will resist it, as the Pharisees once did, but they cannot stop the dawn. However, it must become light, irrespective of Satan's resistance. My kingdom is a kingdom of light. Every soul must choose whether to purify itself through long suffering and darkness, or to take the shorter, but harder path of recognition, surrender, and love. All are invited to the feast, but woe to those who come without the wedding garment. They shall remain in their own darkness until the first light of humility and repentance breaks within their heart. Just as I, during the time of my visible sojourn on earth, wanted to illuminate all the dark corners of the human heart with my words, will return, and my return is near. All hearts must have light, or must, at least, have been made receptive for the light, so that the wedding feast can be celebrated. Then I, your King and Father, will rejoice with my children at the feast of eternal union, the victory of light over darkness, of love over death.